Well, it's been a bit of a fun week at work, actually. Very, very strange indeed, I'll tell you. Yesterday, okay, for me, yesterday it was Thursday. It might have been another day for you, but for me, yesterday was Thursday. And I got to my normal job in Clapham. And as I walked in, I thought, oh, there's no music on. Because this place, right, you walk in the front door, you walk through all the sort of casual seats dotted everywhere, past the bar, up onto a very small stage. I go back of the stage, set my stuff up and start playing the music. All right? Yes, but there's always music playing when I get there. No music. I thought, how strange. And I went up to the bar, I said, what's happened to the music? Oh, we've got no power. We've only got half the power. It all went off about 15 minutes ago. I said, why didn't you stop me coming in? Oh, it was too late. You would have already left. Oh, so last night I didn't work. Couldn't work. There was no equipment. But the nice thing about it is I got paid. I got paid for doing nothing last night. Never happens, dear. Never happens because I'd already got there. You see what I mean? I can't believe it, dear. I got paid for doing nothing. That's not bad, is it? Anyway, so I'm sitting there at the bar. I thought, well, I'll hang around for a couple of hours. You know, if the power comes back on, then we can give the customers something. Even though they don't get the full, all whistles and lights blazing and all that, they would get something. But as luck would have it, I waited till about 12:15. I started at 10 o'clock at night. I waited till 12:15 and nothing was happening. So they sent me home and that was that. But last night it was quite nice, really, because I met... I made 3 new friends last night, which was rather nice. One guy called James St. James. He's a younger DJ. And he does remixing and all that sort of thing. And I've been watching his career. Sometimes you watch younger people's careers. You just go, oh, I wonder how well he'll do. And you start watching him. And he's doing quite well. And I was actually able to meet him last night. So I said, hello, James. You're James, aren't you? He said, yeah. Chris Reardon. He said, oh, I know. I've heard of you and all this business. So I shook his hand. I had a bit of a chat with him about remixing and music and that sort of thing. And he was with 2 friends. One of which... does radio in... Now, I don't want to point this out, right? In another area, OK? He does FM radio in part of the UK. And I got talking to him, and I've had this discussion, I think, with you before. People have always said to me, why don't you do FM radio and all that? Well, because of the restrictions. You know, there are so many restrictions, not only from the authorities, not only from the radio authorities, but from the radio stations themselves. And I must have been talking to him for a good half hour, 45 minutes. And remember, he is on the inside. He actually does the job for a radio station, right? I am on the outside. I don't really want to do what he's doing. He works on independent local radio, okay? Wouldn't want to really do what he's doing because of all the restrictions. And we agreed on everything. Everything that I thought about ILR was true. Basically, the people who run these independent local radio stations are obsessed by branding. They are absolutely obsessed by branding. You know, everything has to be done this way. Everything has to fit into a nice little square box. You mustn't upset anyone. And and he was saying he does get really bored sometimes. And I knew if I'd ever gone along that route, I would be bored. You got more excitement stacking shelves in a supermarket. This is absolutely true. At least you get to meet real people and have conversations while you're pushing all that shopping through the till. And the other thing well, it didn't surprise me. I knew that people in independent okay, as you know, I don't get paid to do this. All right? I do this because I love it. I also do this because I am in, basically, complete control of everything that happens in this programme. Don't get me wrong, would never want to upset anyone. You won't hear me swear, okay? None of that business. No, just generally no nastiness. Or at least, you know, I hope there would ever be no nastiness. I would hope that I never upset anyone. That's the way it is. But I am, at the end of the day, in complete control of everything you see and hear on the show. When you're working for a radio station like that, you are not in control. You cannot use your talent. All right? All they want is your voice. If they were to come to me, it was, hello, Chris, we've got a radio station. We like your voice. Would you like to come and do something with us? And you'd go there, and it would be nothing. And I've spoken to so many people in radio, and they all say the same. It's nothing like you would think. Another guy I know, a very good friend of mine, he worked on a talk radio station here in the UK. And there were a couple of occasions a few years back, and I would say to him, how do I get onto something like this? I've been doing the show. He said, Chris, he said, you'd get on there, and within a couple of months, you'd question why you ever wanted to do it. It's that bad. It's not a nice job. It's really not a nice job working on these independent local radio stations. They're so frightened of upsetting everyone. You can't really have a point of view. All right? You can't have a point of view or anything. I was talking to him, and I said, I hope you don't mind me asking, but how much do you actually get? He does a show in the morning, and he gets £50 per show. That surprised you, isn't it? He gets £50, 100 American dollars, or the same now, 100 Australian dollars per show. Now, I bet that surprised you. Most people seem to be under the illusion that people on FM radio are on hundreds, if not thousands of pounds per week. And it's just not true. And it's 50 quid. Why is it 50 quid? Presumably because everyone wants to do it. Everyone is just a number. A lot of these people on ILRs, they're not looked after. Only the great big stars. But can you just imagine, I want you to just imagine yourself now, right, okay? At the moment, I'm sitting here in this room having a conversation with you, aren't I? Right? Now, imagine yourself in a radio studio with a bit of paper. You've got to play records. Oh, sorry, I know, I still call them records. You've got to play the tracks in the exact order that they are. You must not criticise the tracks, okay? This guy was telling me this as well. He criticised one of the records once. It was a remake of something, right? And he says, well, not as good as the original. Immediately, the boss of the radio station rang him and says, you can't do that. We can't be seen to criticise the music that we're playing. Do you see what I mean? You can't have a point of view. It's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. And I've listened to lots of independent local radio stations, music stations before. And they all sound the same. They're boring. Boring, boring, boring. And this guy who works on the station, you know, he said everything that I already knew. He actually isn't keen on doing the job. However, he wants to be on the radio and is there in the hope that one day he will get onto something bigger. But I think, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you move on to something bigger. If you're a good little boy and you do everything you're told and you just keep to the format of the station, I suppose, then he might do. But at what cost to your sanity? A lot of these people who are on ILRs, independent local radio stations, they actually have a huge amount of talent. It's not their fault. They have a huge amount of talent, and yet they're not allowed to use it. It's madness. Madness. Years ago, 60s and 70s, probably the 80s as well, a bloke would go around and meet people, and perhaps DJs like me in a club who've got a bit of a mouth on the microphone. Hello, we like what you do. Would you like to come and do a show for us? Yes, please. You then go to that radio station. Well, here's the rough format for you to do. Stick within that and go and do your show. And then you could be creative. How are we supposed to find people like Kenny Everett, who was a fantastic DJ here in the UK, before we had all this formatting? How are we supposed to find characters like that when everything is so heavily formatted? £50 a show this bloke gets. It's criminal, isn't it? Absolutely criminal. But like I say, if he says, no, I'm not working for that anymore, he'll be out the door and he'll just get someone new in. They don't care. Obsessed by branding. Absolutely obsessed by branding. And commercial radio, ILRs here in the UK, is not in a very good financial position at the moment. Because it's boring. What you want to do is sack all these idiots at the top who think one size fits all and get a bit of variety on these stations. Different men and women, different boys and girls doing their own thing on these stations. Okay, within a loose format, maybe this station plays 70s and 80s, this station plays R&B, that's fine. But let the people who are presenting the show bring their personalities across. It's so plastic. It's like going into McDonald's. Go wherever you want into McDonald's and it will be exactly the same. Doesn't matter where you go, the burgers will taste exactly the same. But is that really what we want to do with entertainment? Just your thoughts on that, please. My email address is chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. So, lovely bloke he was. I'm not going to name him. I'm not going to say what radio station he works on, because a lot of people on independent local radio stations, there are DJs that listen and watch this show. And sometimes I get a private email from, I don't know, Mr. X, who works on so-and-so FM radio, and they're usually quite nice emails, basically jealous of the fact that I can actually sit here and do what I want. You know, not. I think jealous is perhaps the wrong word to use, but you see, I have other jobs. I'm a DJ and I do karaoke. That pays my wages. This is what I want to do, okay? This is what I really want to do, what I'm doing now. But if I was to go on a radio station somewhere, or a TV station, I don't know, if I was to go on something like that, I would be so formatted that I wouldn't even want to do it anymore. These people that work on young DJs, or not just young, but other DJs who work on independent local radio stations, that is their wage, okay? That is how they live. Therefore, they have to remain within the little box. And a lot of them would love to be doing something like this, but don't dare do it, because it would get them in trouble with the radio station they're in. So they can't use their talents, and it's just such an enormous shame. So I'm really pleased that I met that person last night, and it kind of makes me feel even stronger that I wouldn't want to work on an independent local radio station. If you can get on a BBC local station, I would imagine that you can use your talent a bit more, even though you would still be restricted by certain things. But getting on the BBC is just nigh impossible, I would imagine. I've never tried to do it myself. Unfortunately, I'm not one that's good at pushing myself. You know? I just can't push myself for whatever reason. So I've never even bothered trying. But I would imagine if you could get on a BBC local radio station, there are rules and remits, but it wouldn't be as strong as bad as working on an independent local radio. If we've got any BBC people watching or listening to this show, please come back at me and let me know that. What's it like working for the BBC? Do let us know. My email address is chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. There was another bloke in this group. So there was James, there was the radio bloke, there was another one as well, 3 friends they were. And he was a quantity surveyor. He likes his job, but he's always wanted to do music mixing and perhaps do a little bit of DJ, and he says, oh, I don't know. And I said, well, just go out and do it. I said, you get a lot of money doing your quantity surveying. Go and buy yourself a bit of equipment. Spend some of your money instead of drinking it down like you do in this pub every night and smoking away. Spend a bit on equipment and just do it. You might be no good at it. You might be good at it. How do you know if you don't try? Eh? That's what I say. If there's something you want to do and it's within your money limit to do it, then go and do it, because you'll never know. There's a couple of things I'd like to do, actually. I'd like to drive a bus. I'd love to drive a bus or a great big coach. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to have a sniff. Just a minute. Oh, excuse me. I've got it's all the snot's coming up from my throat today. My lungs are clearing themselves out, boys and girls. They're clearing themselves out. I'd like to drive. I'd really like to drive not an articulated lorry. I'd like to drive a bus. Big double-decker bus. And I should think that would be quite good. A friend of mine, who comes into Belushi's in Hammersmith on Saturday nights for my DJing music in there. He is a coach driver. He says, "Is there anything else you'd like to do?" I said, "Yeah, I'd like to drive a bus." He said, "Oh, that's funny. I drive coaches for a living." I said, "Do you really?" I said, "Do you like it?" He said, "Like it?" He said, "I love it. I love driving coaches." He said, "I've been doing it for years. There's nothing else I'd ever want to do." And do you know what? He's not the first person to ever say that to me. I knew someone else that drove a London bus. And I used to have conversations with him. And I said, "Do you like it?" He said, "Oh, I love it. I absolutely love driving buses." So there's another thing. Does anyone drive large vehicles like buses, coaches, or articulated lorries, trains, anything like that? Have we got any pilots listening or watching the show? Do you love your job? Then let us know. Chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. What job do you do? Do you like or dislike your job? And if you dislike your job and you don't want me to mention your name, put that in the email. Say, "Please don't mention this name, but I do this job. It is whatever it is." Okay? And I can talk about that. Love to talk about that. If you don't want your name mentioned, just put that in the email. But what job do you do, and do you like or dislike it? We'll look at that in a few shows' time. Chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. All right, boys and girls, let's go on to some emails. So very, very, very funny night last night. No electricity in the pub. Got paid, had a conversation with people, went home. And that was it. Wonderful. Let's go over to Iceland. Hello, it's young Robert in Iceland. And he's talking about money problems here in the Eurozone. And he says, "Chris, the problems now running through the Eurozone could become a contagion." Now, there's a word I don't know. Contagion. I don't even know what that is. What a good job I have my Reader's Digest. Oh, they're in trouble now, aren't they? Reader's Digest. I'm sure they're in trouble. Reader's Digest Universal Dictionary, which belonged to my mother. Let's have a look. Contagion. Oh, now there's a word and a half, isn't it? It's, you know, you could look this up on the computer, couldn't you? But there's something, I think, special. And let me know what you think about this. There's something very special, I think, than picking up a great big reference book and looking through it, whether it be a dictionary or some sort of maps, atlases, or encyclopedias, isn't there? Don't you think there's something very special in picking up a great big book? I once nearly bought those Encyclopedia Britannicas, but they're very, very expensive for the whole set of those. What are we looking for? Contagion. Contract. Continental. Construe. Here we go. Content. What is it? T-A-G... Contagion. Contagious. Contagion. Oh. Disease. Disease transmission by direct or indirect contact. A disease that may be so transmitted. A harmful or corrupting influence. The tendency to spread. That's it. The tendency to spread. That's what must he mean there. Yes. He says, so Chris, yes, the problems now running through the Eurozone could become a contagion. A lesson that we all have to learn is to live within our means, which I'm afraid, Robert, a lot of people don't seem to get, do they? It's not people of my age, in a sort of late... I hate saying it, in the late 40s. I'm in my late 40s. Not very late 40s, late 40s. Oh, that's a horrible thing to say. It's anyone who's like 40 and below that seem to have a problem with not spending money that they don't actually have. I just don't understand how that's happened. What's being taught into the schools, I wonder, or what is it in people's heads that they think they can go out and borrow £10,000 and then not want to pay it back? There's an article, actually, Robert, in Evening Standard a couple of weeks ago, which is a London paper, written by a woman called Melanie McDonnell, right? And she goes on here, when it comes to the financial sector, the one that gets me going is its approach to credit cards. I should know, I have 6. They cost me more than my rent every month and lots more than my children. They're the equivalent of the old man of the sea sitting on Sinbad's shoulders, a burden that was lightly taken on and which you can't think of any way of throwing off. So she's moaning here about having to pay back her credit card debt. And there seems to be a lot of this going on at the moment in various newspapers and magazines. And there's a guy also who assists or who's always on the lookout, Martin someone or other. And he's like, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to blow my nose again. I'm sniffing away here today, aren't I? Excuse me, just a minute. Oh dear, I could never be a newsreader, could I? Eh? Blowing nose and sneezing. At least I don't burp all the time, like that dreadful Ross Patzelt, doesn't he? Always burping or doing something like that. There's a guy called Martin who's been trying to assist thousands of people get bank charges back from banks and write off credit card debts and things like that. And there's people moaning that they owe money here and they can't afford to pay it back. Look, I do agree that the banks charge quite a lot of interest for some of these loans, right? But the point is, no one is dragged kicking and screaming into a bank or a credit card office being forced to borrow money. It doesn't happen. I can accept that occasionally people might need to borrow a little bit here or a little bit there to help tide them over, but they don't. They get 1 credit card, they get 2 credit cards, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they spend them all up to their limits and then complain that they have to pay the money back. Well, you shouldn't have borrowed it in the first place. Live within your means. I had a similar conversation last night with one of the bar staff in a place that I work. How do you manage to rack up thousands of pounds worth of debt that you damn well know you can't pay back? How do you do that? I was saying to him about this, and he says, but I'm a student. I said, yes. He said, well, I'm studying for a degree. Yes. So how am I supposed to do that and not borrow the money? I just don't get it. You see, I didn't do the university thing or any special. All I've got is 2 O levels. I wasn't very good at school. I get bored very easily reading textbooks and things like that. I do get ever so bored unless I'm really interested in the subject. And I'm not really interested in any subjects really strongly. Do you see what I mean? So when they throw down a history book in front of you to learn about the Aztecs in wherever, or the history of Italy, Roman Empire, I'm just not interested. If you're not interested, you're not going to learn, are you? I wasn't very good at school at all. I got my first job while I was still at school, in a shop. I worked in a couple of shops, then a British Telecom operator, then a British Telecom engineer, and then DJ and karaoke, and here we are now, right? But I never borrowed money. Can't afford it, okay, go without. Not quite sure how the whole student thing is. If you want that degree, then you've got to go out to work and, I suppose, get the money like that to pay it. I don't know how that works, to be honest. But I don't remember when I was a child students that borrowed thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds, right? So he was saying, well, how am I supposed to do it then? He said, I've got my rent to pay. I'm going to this, whatever he goes to, university or college, to do this degree or whatever it is he's doing. He says, I can't afford to live. And at that point, he lit another cigarette. I said, well, for a start, how much do you smoke a day? He said, about 20. Well, that's 35, 40, 45 pounds a week for a start. And he drinks as well. So how much does he spend on drink? How much does he spend going out? You can't have it all. But this is the situation we've got ourselves into. People want it all, and they want it all now. This all ties in with Robert's email. He says, in the case of Iceland, the total debt on a global scale is not that bad, and we will recover, and in relative terms, do so quickly. I think you will as well. Actually, it sounds a lot of money, but in the grand scale of things, it's not. By the way, if you've got any students watching the programme or listening to the show, perhaps you can enlighten me, because I just don't get this. How is it that you borrow thousands of pounds, maybe a grant or something like that? Are you happy with that? Owing £10,000 to be paid off at some point? I don't know how you do it. I mean, to have a debt over me like that would drive me mad. As far as I'm concerned, there's two things you borrow money for: a house and a car. That's it. You're going to have to enlighten me here, because I really don't understand that side of things. If you want to do a degree, can you not just get a job to pay whatever you have to pay for? Why do you have to have these thousands of pounds in grants as well? I'm not criticising that part of it all. Okay, I need to know. If you can tell me, perhaps it's different in the country that you're in, depending on where you're watching the show. Do let us know, all right? Chris at UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk. Robert says, however, a look at the debt that has been incurred by the UK really is enough to frighten anyone. To me, the whole situation can be likened to carrying a credit card, and in recent times the credit card being carried by the UK and many of the other developed countries can be equated to a gold card. So, here in the UK, we have a very good credit rating, so we can borrow whatever we want. But is that the right thing to do? The government here has borrowed billions and billions of pounds, and it's still borrowing. It can't be right to do this. We're just digging ourselves in a hole here, aren't we? Borrowing and borrowing and borrowing more and more, and billions and more. There has to be a limit, surely, that there's a ceiling somewhere where suddenly someone's going to say, no more. You can't borrow any more. Surely they will, won't they? I agree with you, Robert. We should not be borrowing all this money. Rob says, at best, we in Iceland have had a silver card, and hence our credit debt in real terms is not that bad, because they're simply not allowed to borrow that much. It all comes down to a matter of faith in the system and country. There has never been talk of in Iceland of not paying our debts. Never. It's my understanding that Icelandic government guarantees those deposits. It is simply not fair to expect the person in the street to be cognizant. What's that? Are you coming out with all these words today there? I don't even know what that one means. What is it? Cognizant. Blimey, Rob, where were you getting all these words for today? Are you trying to trip me up? Doesn't bother me looking for a dictionary. Nothing worse than someone trying to bull his way through stuff, innit? Why don't you just say if you don't understand and then you can sort it out? Which is what I'm doing now. What's he say? Cognizant. Cognizant. Fully informed, okay. Well, can't you just say fully informed? It is simply not fair to the person in the street to be fully informed with the ways of interstate finance systems. Of course it's not. We don't understand how all this works, do we? Borrowing money here and there. Oh, could you lend us another £1 billion? Yes, there you are. Take it. Is that all you want? Do you want some more? Ridiculous. The attitude of some is that we the people have had this money and have been on some kind of party fest. We're talking about Iceland here. He says this is both unfair and is not the case. And yet it is the person in the street that will have to pick up the tab for all this, and we will. But to hamper the working people of a country with a repayment that will keep us on our knees is not going to be accepted. And that is my understanding of the current position here in Iceland. The fondness for all things British in Iceland is strong, and indeed, as I have said many times, the love and passion for English football is off the scale. Now is the time for all of us to stand together and take care of each other. I do so believe that we are living in paradise, and it is about time we took some time out to clean up the place. If we go out of the door in the morning with the attitude that we've been given another chance to help someone and to make a difference. These are the times to give a hand up and not a hand out. I've seen companies here in Iceland direct some of the time towards helping their communities, and it warms the heart. The problems in Greece and other countries now has given us all the chance to prove the worth of family, and we must seize the moments. And on other things, my hometown of Akureyri has been hosting winter sports events with everything from ice skating, Nordic skiing and downhill skiing. The twinkling of lights on the side of the mountain is magical as the various ski runs are bathed in light. Snows have returned to reclaim the town, and once again I am out with my shovel to clear the path. Get that shovel out, dear. You do need to get that shovel out. Sitting there doing nothing. Oh, what you like. Snowplows have been working hard to keep the roads and paths clear, and yet sometimes it seems a thankless task for the wind swirl and put back the snow in its original place. Thank you, Robert, for your kind email there. And I think that's about it today. All right. Thank you, as always, for joining me here on United Kingdom Talk. My name's Chris Reardon. Email address chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. I'll see you on the next show. Bye-bye now.